The India-China War of 1967, also known as the Sino-Indian War of 1967, was a military conflict between India and China that took place along the Himalayan border in the northeastern part of India. The conflict was fought over border disputes, which had been ongoing since the 1950s, and resulted in a series of clashes that lasted from September to November 1967. Background: the India-China border disputes can be traced back to the early 1950s, when China began asserting its territorial claims over various parts of India. In 1954, China recognized Tibet as an autonomous region within its borders, which India did not accept. India continued to claim Aksai Chin, a region in the western Himalayas, as its own, which China claimed as a part of its territory. In addition, India claimed Arunachal Pradesh, which China called South Tibet. The tensions between the two nations escalated in 1962, when China launched a massive military invasion of India, claiming to defend its territory. The war ended in a Chinese victory, with India losing a significant portion of its territory in the northeast. The war resulted in a ceasefire agreement, but the border disputes remained unresolved. Events: the Nathu La and Cho clashes of 1967 were a result of these unresolved border disputes. The Nathu La and Cho passes were strategic points on the Sikkim-Tibet border, which was disputed between the two countries. In June 1967, Indian troops noticed that the Chinese were constructing a road on their side of the Nathu La Pass, which was seen as a violation of the ceasefire agreement. The Indian troops demanded that the Chinese stop the construction, but they refused. This led to a heated exchange between the two sides, and eventually, the Chinese opened fire on the Indian troops. The Nathu La clashes lasted for several days, during which both sides suffered heavy casualties. The Indian Army, led by Major General Sagat Singh, fought back fiercely and managed to push the Chinese back. The Indian Air Force also provided air support, which helped to repel the Chinese attacks. The Chola clashes occurred a few weeks later, in October 1967. The Chinese troops attempted to occupy a post that was held by the Indian Army. The Indian troops, led by Major General K.S. Thimaya, fought back and managed to hold their ground. The fighting continued for several days, during which both sides suffered heavy casualties. Aftermath: the Nathu La and Cho clashes resulted in a military standoff that lasted for several months. The Indian Army had successfully repelled the Chinese attacks and had inflicted heavy losses on them. The clashes also led to the closure of the Nathu La Pass, which remained closed for several years. The India-China War of 1967 was a significant event in the history of the two nations. It highlighted the unresolved border disputes between the two countries and the complex nature of their relationship. The war also demonstrated the strength and resilience of the Indian Army and its ability to defend the country against external threats. Conclusion: the India-China War of 1967 was a major event that had far-reaching consequences for both countries. It was fought over border disputes and resulted in a military conflict that lasted for several months. The war highlighted the unresolved border disputes between the two countries and the complex nature of their relationship. It also demonstrated the strength and resilience of the Indian Army and its ability to defend the country against external threats. The war remains an important event in the history of India and China and continues to shape their relationship to this day.